My Married Brother. A story by E.B.'s Heart. Mario suddenly found himself in the same town where his older brother, Owen, was living. He was happy that his business meeting was in the same town. At least I can visit my brother after so many years, Mario thought. He tried to call Owen on the phone, but found out his battery was dead. It's so late, but I will go. He will not be happy to hear that I stayed in a hotel when he is here, Mario thought, and asked the cabman to take him to number 67 Aku Avenue. On his way, Mario wondered why it has been years he visited Owen, but he couldn't remember why. Getting there at almost midnight, Mario, who has been worried on how to get into his brother's compound, smiled when he saw one of his brother's tenants driving into the compound. He walked up to the tenant and greeted the man, who was happy to see him. Being the landlord, Owen was living at the 2 flats upstairs while he rented the 2 flats downstairs. However, as Mario was walking upstairs tired, he heard sobbing and pleading, then a whooping sound of cane. Oh my, who is Owen flogging by this time of the night? Mario thought as he began tiptoeing to avoid being seen. He wanted to know who his brother was flogging. When he got to the door, he noticed that the door was not locked. In fact, it was slightly open. So Mario could hear the voice of the person crying clearly, but he doesn't want to believe what he was hearing. So he peeped through the slightly open door and saw his older brother, a well-respected lecturer and a school owner, kneeling naked before a plate of rice like a dog, on the floor, crying. Mario became scared and thought he was being attacked by robbers. But when he looked at the person holding a long wire and flogging him, he saw Meg, his brother's wife, dressed in a long black robe with red-hot eyes like a demon and a horn on her head. Mario almost fainted in shock. What is going on here? Is Meg even human? Or are my eyes seeing double? My brother, kneeling on the floor and eating from a plate like a dog? Mario asked in disbelief and fear. Mario's fear made him blank and unable to think. He wanted to leave and maybe return in the morning, but thought otherwise. Let me go out and call him so that I can pretend that I saw nothing. I cannot leave my brother alone here, Mario thought, and ran downstairs with his small bag. He knocked at the door of the tenant he had seen earlier and pleaded to use his phone because his own phone was off. Hello Owen, I am on my way to your house now. We had a business meeting in this town, so I want to pass the night at your place. Mario was still talking when he suddenly heard Meg's voice. Oh sweet brother-in-law, come at once. It's been long we saw you. Mario, upon hearing her voice, became terrified but kept calm. He then ran out of the compound to pretend that he was at the gate. When his brother came down to open the gate for him, Mario noticed that he was not walking properly. The beating affected the way he walked, so he asked him why he was limping. Oh, I hit my leg on the wall while coming down to meet you now, Owen lied. What of your wife? Mario asked. Oh, she is praying and wouldn't like to be disturbed, Owen answered with a sad smile. Praying? Mario thought. That night, Mario couldn't sit or sleep in his room. He couldn't wait for morning to inform their family of what he had seen. It's past 1 a.m., calling Mom now is not a good idea, he thought. Mario eventually slept and woke up at dawn. He was in the toilet when he heard his brother's scream outside and a thud. Owen! Mario shouted as he ran out of the toilet. But when he got to the balcony, he saw something that left him numb and weak. Meg had pushed Owen down from the balcony. What have you done, Meg? Mario asked in tears. Meg was about to start acting strange when Mario ran fast to his room to get him phone. It's better I have a video evidence, Mario said as he ran. But immediately he ran into the room to get his phone, Meg locked the door and started screaming for help. Help, my brother-in-law just pushed my husband down the balcony, she cried. She wants to frame me, she wants to frame me, Mario said repeatedly while sweating. He picked his phone to call for help, but his phone was mysteriously switched off and refused to come on. Then a knock came harshly on his door, startling Mario. He peered through the keyhole and saw something that made his knees weak. Meg was standing on his door, with her head bowed and her feet facing backward. Why did you come? She growled while she walked slowly toward Mario's door. You saw what you are not supposed to see, and now you must pay with your life in the most shameful way. Your brother is my property. I bought him in the spirit world, so he belongs to me, Meg said and laughed like a maniac. You killed my husband, Mario. You took away my plaything, so you must suffer. I told him to send you away, but he couldn't, so you killed him by coming to my house. As she was talking, Mario then realized that Meg was still shouting outside for help at the same time. Oh no, no, God help me. If she is still shouting for help outside, who then is standing at the door? Mario then opened the window and started shouting for help. He could see some persons standing with another Meg outside. Everyone started abusing him and calling him wicked for pushing his brother down the balcony. I locked him inside. He wanted to attack me too, Meg said in tears to their neighbors that came to her rescue. Within some minutes, an ambulance came and took Owen to the hospital. Mario was a bit relieved that his brother may survive so that he will be able to say what happened, but the sound of police siren dashed that hope. Meg even refused to follow the police into their home when they came. He will kill me, she cried. Mario cried and tried to explain what happened to the police, but a slap landed on his face. Mama, Mario pushed Owen from the balcony. I don't know what happened. Mario came into our home after midnight and started arguing with my husband. I tried to intervene, but everything escalated so fast, and the next thing was that Mario pushed Owen from the balcony. Please, Mama, come and help my husband. Mario overheard Meg's phone call as he was leaving with the police. Their neighbors cursed at him, calling him wicked. Mario harmed Owen? It's not possible, Mario's mother thought. She called her other sons and told them what was happening. Even though they were in different cities and have not seen one another for a long time, they all swore that something was wrong. There is no way Mario could harm Owen, Mario's mother, Mrs. Patty, thought in tears. They all entered the next available flight to the city where Owen was living. When they got there, Mrs. Patty insisted that they should go and see Mario first because something was not right in the story. I need to hear from Mario. You know I never trusted Meg, Mrs. Patty said while she marched and her sons followed. When they got to the police station, they met Mario in jail looking at them like strangers. We are here to know exactly what happened to Owen, Mrs. Patty said to her son Mario. But Mario simply started shedding tears without uttering a word. He woke up like this after crying through the night, calling Meg every second and running around inside his cell. We had to tie him down so that he will not harm himself, the police officer in charge said to Mrs. Patty. Oh, Mario, I thought you will tell us what happened. What happened to you? Mrs. Patty said in tears. Take him inside, the officer ordered. As they pulled Mario up from where he was sitting, he held his mother's hand and looked into her eyes with so much fear. Meg is not human. His words haunted Mrs. Patty as she left for the hospital immediately. By the time they got there, it was already dark. So they asked about Owen's room. When they got there, they saw about 10 women of same age, same dressing, with Meg, surrounding Owen, who was in coma. Mrs. Patty and her sons stood at the door, watching Meg and the women, wondering what the women came to do. That was when Meg touched Mrs. Patty's shoulder outside the door and said, Mama, go inside, these are my friends. Mrs. Patty and her 2 sons looked back in shock. They could have sworn that they saw Meg inside with the women. When they entered inside, Mrs. Patty looked at her Owen and noticed that he was almost lifeless. She wept while asking Meg what happened. Immediately Mrs. Patty asked what happened. Meg's friends all turned and looked at Mrs. Patty. And without saying a word, they all marched out of the room in a straight line. Jay, one of Owen's brother, ran after them immediately because of how odd they looked. But they had disappeared right after walking out of the door. He ran back inside and was breathing fast due to fear. They disappeared, he stammered. We need to take Owen out of this hospital, Mrs. Patty whispered to Jay. Meg, who pretended not to be hearing them, was sitting quietly at a corner. Since Owen is not responding to treatment, he will be transferred to our family's doctor, Mrs. Patty said to Meg. Meg started crying and saying that she needed to stay close to her lovely husband. But Mrs. Patty started making calls immediately. Come first thing tomorrow morning, we are taking Owen home to our family doctor. Our doctor has a lot of experience. Mrs. Patty called their driver at home and told him to start driving to the city first thing in morning. Meg, after crying, agreed. All I want is for Owen to get back on his feet. I couldn't believe Mario is this mean, Meg continued talking, but Mrs. Patty and her sons didn't utter a word. Owen's brothers wanted to beat Meg up so bad and get the truth out of her, but something stronger than them seemed to oppress them and hold them back. They called the doctor that night to speak with him about taking Owen home with them. Owen's condition is very critical and he may not survive a hospital transfer now. We are still trying to know if he suffered a brain injury or not, so he must be watched at all times, the doctor responded. The next day, an unexpected visitor came into Owen's private ward. Hello, I am Father John. I am here to pray for patients in this hospital. That was when Mrs. Patty remembered prayer. She completely forgot her sons needed prayers, or something made her forget it. Father John was still talking when Meg shouted, "We don't need prayers here, the patient will be disturbed." As Meg was talking, Mrs. Patty and her sons felt it was wrong for her to say that, but they couldn't stop her. They felt powerless. Father John insisted on praying even when Meg was clearly trying to make trouble. The Spirit of God sent me directly to this ward, and I must do as I was instructed before I leave, Father John insisted. Father John walked straight to Owen where he was lying down and touched his forehead. "Leave him alone." Father John heard some voices behind him and turned. The 10 women that were sitting inside the ward before were standing at the entrance door, talking all at once and pointing at Father John. Their presence immediately changed the atmosphere at the hospital. The air suddenly became thick and smoky. Father John started feeling weak and tired. But in all of these, Father John noticed that Mrs. Patty and her sons doesn't seem to be aware of what was happening. They looked lost and unaware, like children. The women started coming closer to Father John while they sang. Father John became uneasy and tried to reach for his pocket to get his cross, but they pushed him and pinned him to the wall. Why are you not minding your business? The women chorused in one voice again. There and then, in front of everyone, they handed the cane over to Meg and told her to flog Father John. Father John looked up and saw a fiery cane coming towards him and shut his eyes. Father John started crying and praying as Meg lifted her hand to flog him. "Jesus, Jesus," Father John cried. "Help me," he continued crying. The light in the hospital started blinking severally. Mrs. Patty was simply looking with her sons, but they were not aware of what was going on. She could hear and see Father John with Meg sitting beside him, but was not seeing anything wrong going on. Meg lifted her hand again while the women chanted in a strange language. But as she was about to land the cane on Father John's body, a very strong wind began blowing, causing the doors and windows in the hospital to be closing and opening forcefully. "What is happening? I cannot move closer to him," Meg cried in fear. "He is carrying a divine light, and it is stronger than we think," the women said in the same voice again. Meg couldn't move from that spot again, so she knelt on the floor, trying so hard to drop the cane, but could not. The breeze was too much. "Jesus, Jesus," Father John continued shouting while he managed to reach the cross on his pocket. He quickly touched Mrs. Patty's forehead, and she woke up. And for the first time, Mrs. Patty could think clearly. "What is this?" she asked when she saw the women standing, looking strange like demons. Mrs. Patty became terrified and stood in front of her children, trying to shield them with her body. The women's eyes were glittering fire, and they all looked the same. Meg was still raising her hand while the cane was shaking. The breeze continued and eventually pushed Meg to the ground. "Wake your son up now. He is not in a normal coma, his soul was tied somewhere by this woman," Father John shouted as the wind blew. When the women noticed that they have been overpowered, they disappeared before everyone, making everyone shout in fear. "He is mine, Owen is mine for life. I married him because I chose him." Meg continued shouting and screaming. In all that was happening, The doctors and nurses continued passing and even doing their job. To them, everything in that ward looked normal. They did not notice anything strange. Meg wanted to join them and disappear, but Father John held her down. She struggled to get up, but Jay, Owen's brother, hit her on the head, and she passed out. In that moment, Owen woke up by force and asked what he was doing there. A glance at Meg, and he wanted to run out of the hospital in fear. "I have been having a nightmare where this woman on the floor was torturing me," Owen cried. "This woman is your wife," Jay said, almost crying. "My wife? How?" Owen asked. "You married her 3 years ago, just a few weeks after giving her a lift at night. You cut us all off a few months after marrying her. You said we were insulting her," the both brothers said in anger and frustration. "Maybe Mario mistakenly visited you, or maybe God now wanted you to be free from her grip," Father John said and faced Owen. "I was on my way home and didn't know how I found myself inside this hospital. Although I normally visit hospitals, but I was not planning to do that today," Father John said and waved his hands to God. For almost an hour, Owen sat at the hospital bed crying when he remembered all the torture he had endured, thinking it was a dream. Meg also made his mother forget about him. They were still listening to Owen's sad tale when Meg vanished. Owen started screaming again, but Father John held him and said, "It's over now. She is not of this world, and her aim was to take you as her slave to her own world, but your brother's care and love saved you on time. You would have disappeared mysteriously with her assuming she complete the rites she was performing on your head. You know nothing about her, yet you married her because she was beautiful," Father John said and shook his head. "Go home, bring out everything that belonged to her and burn all of them. That way she will not be able to have access to you again." Owen and his family first of all went to the police station where Mario, who had regained his sense, was crying. "It's over," Owen said to Mario in tears. Owen wrote a statement and stated all that happened. The police then released Mario and issued arrest warrant for Meg. When they got home, Owen shouted in fear as he noticed that everything belonging to Meg had mysteriously disappeared on its own. Even the pictures that they took together had only Owen on it. Owen lived with the trauma of what he passed through in Meg's hands for a long time before moving on to remarry. But even after he had remarried, his family never let a day pass without calling one another to check how they were. This story is reminding you today to call, visit and ask more about your married brothers today. Some men are married to what is bigger than them and they may never speak out. So check on them and try your best to know how things are really going for them, because anyone can be a victim of domestic violence, and a simple visit might just be their saving grace.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.